All right, so I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call. Council at Large Cummins. At Large Poston.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Hembry.
Here.
Ward number 2 Helm.
Here.
And Ward number 3 McNeil.
Here. So, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, to the agenda approval. If there are no additions, is there a motion to approve this agenda? Cummins with the first. And Helm with the second.
Cummins, Poston,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes. All right, now we'll move to communications. And we do have other people online, but this is the part where anyone can address the city council if they need to. Just state your name for the record. We don't have anybody.
Lloyd Tabor.
Yep.
Okay, I've got a couple things. One of them is when the electric department is writing its current budget and the city's writing its current budget, in about 3 to 4 months, the energy cost adjustment will be adjusted down. It should be, because we said that it would take 2 years to recover the money that we had spent on extra costs in energy. So has that been taken into account, or is the council planning on leaving that in place at a highly inflated rate? The second thing is, you look at some of the committees and commissions in the city, and a lot of them are people that don't live in town, don't pay taxes here. And I'm kind of curious why that is such a big thing to get people that don't live in town to do these things, but yet there was a big rush to remove Dr. Niles from other boards and commissions that he'd served on in quite a good capacity when he lived outside of town. You have a former council member on one of the boards, and that's for the airport commission. So I'm kind of curious why the city allows this when these people pay absolutely no tax dollars to the town, and you're allowing this and you're appointing more people to these things. And I'm just kind of curious, because it just doesn't make any sense, because they don't feel the impact of the taxes that the rest of us do. And a good example of that is just like the city's taking 8% of the utilities money to satisfy the budget because they're irresponsible in writing a budget, and they've got all these dreams and stuff like that. And I'd like to know when the city council is going to stop robbing the electric utility so that the electric utility can hire 3 more employees, which it desperately needs. You have a person right now that is filling my previous position that you won't even appoint to be the electric superintendent. John is well qualified to take that position, but yet for some reason, well, I know the reason, but I can't say it, because Mr. Wagner doesn't want to hire him. And I'll tell you, John is a very good. I don't remember hearing a zipper. I don't remember hearing a zipper.
I gotta cut you off for a second, because number 7 on tonight is to appoint John Walsh as electric superintendent. Those other boards and commissions have their own guidelines for who gets appointed and who doesn't.
Oh, so the city doesn't oversee that?
No, yeah, the council then approves that.
Who set the rules for those? Who set the rules for each one of those boards and commissions? Didn't the council set those boards and rules?
Those were set long before I was elected, or long before any of these guys were elected. I can't speak to who made those rules and regulations, but all of those boards have requirements for who can be on those and who can't. As far as the budget, we're still going through that process. So the budget is not finalized. And I know when you were electric superintendent, the city still did transfer money over from that utility to help out with the budget. I'm not sure what the current,
Melissa, in the proposed budget, what percent of pilot payment from the electric utility do you have worked out?
It's lower, it's 6.5%.
and what was it before? Okay.
I didn't hear what she said, and stop muting me because I got the floor. I've got the floor. You gave me permission to talk, and then you muted me.
Floyd.
You are correct. That's because I'm running the meeting and you won't let me answer your questions. The
Well,
previous rate,
because you're taking,
the previous rate was 8%. It is actually lower this year at 6.5. That's the forecasted rate.
stop muting me.
Allow me
Stop
to answer your
You're taking
questions.
away from my time. You're taking away from my time.
You've
You
got
answer
more than
when
3
I'm
minutes.
done. You answer
No.
when I'm done.
And you have 3 minutes. That was it when you were electric superintendent here as well.
Well, I don't remember hearing a zipper, and I can't figure out why your mouth's open. So what I'm saying is I need to get my 3 minutes, and you've cut into it for about a minute and a half because I'm not done.
I'm going to have to ask you to get off of the online portion of this.
Oh,
we've
because you
answered
don't
your
like what's
question.
being asked.
No, we've answered your questions.
Then let me finish. You've taken up my time. You've taken up my time.
Then you need to finish so we can move on.
Don't get smart with me. Remember, you're elected. We can replace you like a diaper.
Okay.
Floyd, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I think that's.
Fuck you.
All right. All right. So if there's anybody else online who would like to have their time as well. All right. So we'll close that portion of the meeting and we'll move on to the consent agenda. And these are things that can be enacted with one motion. It's the approval of the council meeting minutes from February 6th of 23, approval of the liquor license renewal for Walmart, approval of a drip request for Ken and Sarah Kroc at 501 Lynn Street, approval of the chamber kickoff summer event, and this is actually Saturday, June 10th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They need the closure of the following streets of East 5th to Meridian, Meridian from 5th to 4th, and also use of the Cedar County Courthouse North parking lot. This would be the one that the city maintains. Then also approval of a power plant light fixture upgrade. The electrical engineering for that at $3,449. Approval of the replacement of a kid's slide and mat pad at the pool area. The approval of the fire department annual report and also a claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Any of these need to be pulled out?
Can I ask for clarification, Mayor?
Definitely.
It's got electrical engineering. Electric department's installing the fixtures, aren't they, John?
Yeah.
You're just receiving them from electrical engineering?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, is that good?
Yeah.
All right, then with that, is there a motion to approve this agenda?
Motion.
Passion with the first
Second.
and Hembry with the second.
Postian,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Cummins.
All right, so now we have a public hearing. It's the public hearing on the max levy. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? McNeil with the first and Passion with the second.
Hembry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Cummins, Postian.
Yes.
All right, so we have the public hearing is open. Melissa?
I went over this the last time that we set the public hearing, but I'm just gonna run through it really quick. This is only a portion of the levies. It does not
Yeah,
include
just keep
the
going.
debt service levy. it has the three different columns. The first column is the property tax rate for the current fiscal year 22-23. The second column is using the same valuation for the new fiscal year, but using the 23 levy amounts. And then you'll see the third column is our proposed property tax rate as it is currently. And as of close of business, I have not had any contacts or questions.
Does this levy take into account what the state's doing?
So this levy is for the current valuation. That is going to change. It's going to roll back 2%. We can continue on with the current levy because you're able to progress forward if it goes down. So we can move forward. We don't have to restart this process of the budget. It will adjust down based off of the new valuations that will come out hopefully by March 9th. And then these numbers will change. You'll get a new revised.
Hey Siri, call Judy Jenkins. Hey Siri. Kick me off again or I will report you to the state for denying me access to the meeting. I'm telling you right now, I'm calling the state because I'm recording this. Because you're not going to kick me off of the meeting every time I want to log in and listen. Oh yeah, Melissa, run over there and kick me off because I'm recording this. I love every minute of it because I'm calling the state. I'm going to turn you in for denying me access to the meeting just because you don't like what I say. That's too bad. That's too bad. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to keep logging in. I'm going to call on my phone. You're going to let me listen. That's the way it is. Kick me.
He said they couldn't hear us either. All right. Message them. Make sure we can hear. They can hear us. All right. So there's no more comments on the max levy. I need a motion to close the public hearing. McNeil with the first and Cummins with the second.
Helm.
Yes.
McNeil. Cummins. Postian.
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.
All right, so down to number one, the city business resolution approving the maximum tax dollars from certain levies to the city's proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. Melissa?
This is just proposing that max levy or approving the max levy that I just spoke about in the public hearing.
All right. There's still no questions. Is there a motion to approve this? Cummins with the first.
Second.
And Posturing with the second.
McNeil.
No.
Cummins.
Yes.
Postian.
Yes.
Hembry.
No.
Helm.
Yes.
All right. So down to number 2, a discussion and possible action that was recommended by the airport committee concerning a proposal by Ryan Gerwell and our land services for phase 1, and that would be estimated at $2,000 to assist with the possible purchase near the airport. We do have Scott and Max from the airport committee, but we also have Ryan Garwell from A&R. If anybody has any questions, but I'll probably toss it over to Max real quick if you want to give any summary.
Okay, in our most recent acquisition project, we kind of hit a stymie, and they threw it up to our engineer, Jay Prudence with McClure Engineering, and he suggested another option that we have not pursued yet in hiring a company that specializes in land acquisition. That company is A&R Land Services, headed up by Ryan Gerwell out of Ames, Iowa. At our last meeting, we visited with Mr. Gerwell, and they had presented us a contract that actually was, we thought, quite pricey. And in lieu of our past history or our past attempt, which has not been successful to this point, we were a little leery of committing to as much money as he was proposing. So we did strike a deal with him to pursue the first 2 phases at a much lower cost to see if we could get some kind of a verbal by Mr. Homerdink and his wife, and a positive reaction by Mr. Gerwell as to whether he could be successful or not. So that portion of the process is going to carry a price tag of about $2,000. And we're asking the council if they will go along with us and give this first process a shot. That's kind of, and
Yeah.
Brian.
Well, before we ask Ryan, who's online, to speak to his proposal, this would be a switch from the attorney Kyle, who had been doing this from Lynch, Dallas. Ryan's firm is much more practiced in FAA rules for land acquisition. And we thought that by just doing a first phase for the 2,000 to resume a discussion with this family would be an incremental approach. And if he gets to the next stage, we'd come back and we would talk to the council about phase 2. And with that, Ryan, do you want to go into your proposal or your approach or whatever else we haven't covered?
I think you covered most of it. I would say our company has been in business since 2009. We've done multiple public improvement projects throughout the state of Iowa. We've done multiple airport improvement and expansion throughout the state of Iowa. We have a lot of experience with the FAA, with state and federal rules when it comes to land acquisition for public projects. And just based on our experience and our qualifications, we had proposed to the city that we should at least take a shot at approaching the landowners on what we would typically propose for land acquisition for this type of project to the landowners in question.
Well, I guess one more thing to add. The city has invested in this approach. I mean, we've got we've done an appraisal and a secondary review appraisal. So, we're trying not to walk away from the time and money put into this acquisition so far by doing this incremental approach. And we don't know if it'll work, but it wasn't working the previous way. And so we're turning to somebody who has specific experience in this type of land acquisition. And again, if it's successful, ultimately the FAA would pay the cost 90% to the city's 10%. So that's an outcome that we've done successfully with 2 other properties. It's just that this one needs a different approach, and we're hoping this approach is successful.
All right. Any questions or thoughts up here?
What seems to be the roadblock that you would switch from Kyle to Ryan?
I didn't
Yes.
hear the question, Scott.
What-
Did
what seems
Mostly
to be
that
the,
Kyle is not as apt with negotiating between a landowner and the FAA as this company is. Some of it has to do with the appraisal being a little out of date by the time it's issued with the land prices that we've had changing so fast recently.
And really, even if you don't switch to this approach, you're still spending money. Right? I mean, you're paying the lawyer instead.
Well, right, and as I understand it, I don't know if it's happened yet, but Kyle is leaving Lynch Dallas. And as I understand it, he's gonna go into some other line of work, I don't know what. So it seemed like, okay, if we're going to switch, let's try this type of switch and see if it's successful.
So basically, Ryan's just going to be negotiating with the landowners, similar to what Kyle was doing at Lynch House at his rate.
Right.
at his rate and his expertise?
I'm a little bit afraid of the word expertise anymore.
All right. In his area of study.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Cummins with the first to approve,
Second.
and Hembry second.
Cummins,
Yeah.
Postian,
Yes.
Hembry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil.
No.
I guess one thing, I understand that the motion and the voting is done, but this 2,000 is based on a rate of $75 an hour, which is significantly less than what the attorney would be on an hourly rate.
All right. Thank you, Ryan Gerwell. Sorry, I got them mixed up. Your name is Ryan as well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
The power.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thanks, Max and Scott. All right. The next one will be Ryan White is here, and he has a discussion and possible action concerning the proposal letter about the cell tower lease. Go for it, sir.
I'm not exactly sure what's here.
Oh, no, you're fine.
It's just to talk about what you're proposing.
Yep.
Okay.
The council already has it,
Okay.
but if you could explain it, and then also for anybody watching, they can understand it better.
There's a tower over in the park area that was built quite some time ago. It was originally built by Kirkwood Community College. And the city and Kirkwood worked together to build that tower. And there's a ground lease associated with that tower. And that tower, that ground lease at the time, I believe, was a 20-year ground lease. 50% of the revenue of the tenants of that tower go to the city. Historically, Kirkwood Community College had some equipment up there. US Cellular had equipment up there, and Sprint had equipment up there. And last year, we issued a check for this year's rent for $19,824. And I worked with Melissa on the audit phase to go over that and review that. What recently occurred is we received a termination notice from Sprint terminating the RAD center, which is, the equipment on top of the tower. So some of that revenue will come down in 2024. The current lease is under, I believe, 7 years remaining. It expires on June 30th, 2029. So for US Cellular, who's the remaining tenant, they would like the tower companies to have at a minimum 25 to 30 years lease. That way it secures that site for them, because it's very expensive for those companies to put up that equipment, to maintain it, and or to move it. So our proposal is basically to extend that ground lease, and or the other option is to provide a one-time purchase easement in the amount of $245,000 that the city will receive. Our company is a fund company. We're out of Kansas City. Our CEO's in Kansas City. I'm in Kansas City, and our headquarters are in Nashville. We own about 100 towers all over the United States. All of us came out of the carrier community, meaning I worked for Sprint, my CEO worked for Sprint, our COO at one time worked for AT&T. So we all come from a telecom background. Well, I don't know, Brian, is that kind of what you guys would?
Yeah, you mentioned the length and US Cellular.
Yes, sir.
Do they have a long-term agreement then with you, or will they have that with you if this happens?
Yes, I mean, so the way the carrier agreements usually work is there's an initial term, and in most cases it's a 5-year initial term, and then they have 5-year renewal terms. So they always have the ability, the carriers do, to terminate going into that new 5-year renewal term, which is what happened in the Sprint situation. The Sprint situation, for those of you who are aware, T-Mobile purchased Sprint. So part of that integration was to remove 35,000 sites all over the United States. So in the short run, it's an issue for us, and of course, the city receives less revenue from that. Long term, you never know. There may be a carrier that comes back. What the carriers are doing is they're building out 5G in the dense urban areas the fastest, and then when it starts to be adopted over time, it will then go out to more rural areas. So eventually, everybody in theory will have 5G coverage all over the United States. So at some point in the future, there could be a new tenant that replaces Sprint, but it won't be anytime, say, in the next probably 3 to 4 years.
The re-estimated annual revenue, the 11,100 roughly, is that based on Sprint being there?
You mean US Cellular?
Or, yeah, I'm sorry, US Cellular.
Yes, sir.
So if anybody else comes in, that would likely go up, right? It wouldn't
Yes.
likely go down. I mean, US Cellular isn't gonna end up paying less, like, is that likely?
No, their leases are independent and their economics are independent. Just like a tenant in an apartment is exactly the same as another tenant in an apartment. So it's not impacted by who is on that tower.
I suppose if the council was looking at this, they could look at it in a couple ways. One would be the 245,000 upfront. The other way would be to look at it longer term, where there'd probably be the 11,000 a year, but who knows, maybe another tenant comes in and it gets better. Maybe if you take a long view and assume that it isn't likely to go under 11, it might get better. You might look at the long term. I suppose it depends on the council's point of view of upfront, short term, or now, long term, and hope that another tenant comes in.
Any thoughts?
Personally, I'd just like to maintain the lease and keep it under a leased agreement.
What were you used to before 20, 25 years, what you're after?
I'm sorry,
What were you going for as far as extending the lease?
we would prefer to have another 30 years on it. I think what's in here is 3 10-year options, which would basically make it out to 36 years and change at this point. And we're perfectly fine either way. We just want to make sure that it's secure for the long term as these companies start to build out these networks.
Personally, I agree with what Ron said. I hope the city's better off thinking long-term than upfront, short-term.
So if I'm gonna think out loud here, a motion would include to either adopt the one-time payment, or the motion would include to maintain the lease as is.
To extend.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, to extend it.
A motion would be to extend the lease.
Second. Hembry with the first to extend the lease, McNeil with the second.
Posturing,
No.
Hembry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil, Cummins.
All right.
And would your company draw up this extension for our attorney to review?
Yes, sir, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you for your time this evening.
All right, yeah, thank you. All right, next up is a resolution that would assess utility charges due to non-payment by the property owner. Melissa?
This is just a request to take this assessment to the county treasurer's office for unpaid utility bills.
All right. There are no questions on this non-payment. Is there a motion to approve it? McNeil with the first and Cummins with the second.
Hembry,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Cummins, Posturing.
Yes.
All right, the next one, which would be a resolution that would accept the fiscal year 21-22 audit report. Ms. Armstrong?
Does anyone have any questions on the report? I did send it out. So if there are any questions. This is dated, it's for back to June 22.
All right, then is there a motion to accept this audit report?
Motion.
Posturing with the first and Cummins with the second.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Cummins, Posturing,
Yes.
Hembry.
Yes.
All right, number 6 then, discussion and possible action concerning the review of the responses for the RFP on 1011 Cedar Street. They're all included in everybody's packet as well. I think you got them emailed out yourselves. But Mr. Wagner?
Well, we have 4 proposals. We have basically, if you look at them in terms of what they propose to do, 3 of them would demolish the house, and they have varying terms or proposals. One would be toward its restoration. Now, it could be said that if anybody's looking at strictly at all the rules of the RFP, you could make a case that there are some cases where it wasn't complied with all the way down the line, but we allowed to waive formalities and informalities, so you can work with the proposals that came in. We set it up so that you could talk to more than one at once if you want to. We set it up letting everybody know that you don't have to decide on anything tonight. You have through the end of March. So we built in time into this. If you want to have an upcoming meeting where everybody has a chance to explain their proposal, you can do that too. If you want to have a committee work with somebody making a proposal, you could appoint one. So I guess I want to get the point across that there's no rush to necessarily make a decision tonight if you're not ready. I guess with that, Mayor, do you want to go any further into what came in?
Well, yeah, so like Brian said, we had 3 of them, or yeah, 3 of them to demolish and then have a lot that was grass seeded, the one to rehab it. I did look up property taxes from the north and the south properties, and they average about $2,000 a year. I didn't look up to see how much an empty lot in Tipton brings in, but I'm gonna guess it's significantly less. So if there is there any discussion amongst us up here regarding them?
I like the Lynch proposal.
Okay. So,
I'd like to see the house restored.
because to me,
What does the city have invested in the property right now?
I don't know, we said last time.
Like $1,800, correct?
I thought it was 24. Could be wrong.
I don't know precisely.
Yeah.
I mean, in the
So-
end, it's, the idea is to try to make a decision where the outcome is in what you think is in the best interest of the city.
So, to me, I looked at it as that, some of you guys, I think may have looked at the tower lease with the cell tower is a short-term, one-time check versus in 2 years, there's a restored house bringing in at least $2,000 in property taxes a year on Main Street and not an empty lot.
Correct. And potentially meaning another family, which is spending money in town as well.
I'm where I'm at originally. I don't want to see the house go down. But also, for $1, I mean, what do we have invested? That's what I'm saying. If we, you know, maybe change the proposal, paying the back tax, whatever city has invested, right there. But I don't want to see the house tore down in an empty lot.
Well, you have one proposal that would keep the house. You have the ability to negotiate with the people, or the Derbies who made that proposal.
That's where I'm at.
I mean, I don't want to say for them whether they would do it or not do it. We would need to get the precise amount, but yeah, you have the ability if you want to negotiate with them over things like that.
All three proposals had just an empty lot. That's all they had. There was nothing that was going to be done afterwards, just an empty lot.
There was one proposal that said after 2 years.
It would be marketed, I think. It would be marketed, and if after 2 years, it was unsuccessful doing that, then a home would be put up probably as a rental home. That, we'd have to talk about that if you want to go in that direction, because we talked about, at the end, there'd be a purchase agreement between the city and the new owner that would spell out all the things that they said they would do. And it would have, they call them clawback provisions or enforcement provisions if they don't perform on contract. I'm not sure, you'd have to look at what the attorney would say, but I'm not sure how to write in the requirement that after 2 years, a house would be built. That's kind of open-ended. And I'm not, I guess legal people would have to figure that out. But off the top of my head, I'm not sure how to write that into a contract.
Well, the city shouldn't be involved in a time limit for any type of development. Because everything goes economic wise. Is it economical feasible to build a house at this time? If not, they're not going to build.
But we're involved with time limits all the time with the TIF funding. It's there, there's a 15-year sunset on it.
Well, the one example of where a timeline would be important is, let's say that, now we didn't know who was going to make proposals. So trying to think around that, let's say somebody proposes to demolish a house, but there's no timeline on it. They get halfway through it and stop. There has to be some sort of timeline saying you're in breach of your contract because you didn't finish the job. Otherwise, you might have a partly demolished building just sitting there. And
I wasn't talking about demolishing.
I'm sorry, what?
I wasn't talking about the timeline for demolishing. I was talking about construction of a new home. That makes sense?
Like, you mean after the 2 years, if it doesn't sell?
Well, that's what I mean. If let's say we get approval for Lynch to level the house. If he does not want to build on it for whatever length of time, I don't think we need to force them to build anything. But as far as demolishing the house, I expect to see it come down in quick order.
But I guess you can think about that with the house being restored. It's still there, and they put a time limit on it.
Yeah, if you had a restoration project, you'd want a timeline on that, just because of the condition of the house.
Well, I'm restoring inside my house because I don't like nothing too. And I've been at it for 5 years. But you haven't seen much from the exterior, other than the addition of the deck. You know, so
So that's what you.
what Derby's proposed is nice, except for we were basically giving them $7,499 to keep that house on our tax roll. What Lynch is proposing is we will take a house that the city deemed, you know, a nuisance, and we're going to address the issue and clean up the lot for you and mark things accordingly. You know, the same thing with the other bid. The one for 5, you know, that's, you know, makes it tough to swallow. Okay, oh, we want it to be a green space. Well, Reggie's can be a green space, and it's been a green space for how long? You know, if the house was bad enough with limestone foundation, I can about imagine it's got 2x8 truss at 16 on center. Mud seal probably rotted out, isn't it, Jason? Yeah.
I haven't been to look at it, but I'm guessing so, yeah.
You know, and what I struggle with is when I drive by and I look at it, and when the roof failed, that's when the house took on the most amount of damage, and it makes it extremely questionable whether or not we can bring it back.
Well, but if the person making the proposal says they can restore it and have done restorations, does the city decide for them, no, you can't do it? I think that is the type of question why you bring them in and have them address that.
I don't have a problem with them wanting to bid out and restore the property. I have a problem with the city giving them $7,499. That's my hang-up.
But that's going back to what Mike was talking about. That's part of what you're negotiating with them.
You know, and it's been over 1.5 years that I heard it was an eyesore and a pain in some people's derriere. And 1.5 years later, we're now using outsourcing to address the issue. If it's bad enough to be condemned by the city, I think it ought to come down. If the city was willing to put that stamp on it at the beginning.
It wasn't condemned.
It was dilapidated property?
Yes, it was a nuisance that the owner of the time couldn't address. And because he didn't have the money to address it, he basically let it go to the city. Now the choice is, does the council want to go with the proposal to restore it, or does the council want to go with one of the proposals to demolish it?
Well, I guess we have 2 people here. Did we want to hear from Larry or Tucker that bid on it? I mean, they're here.
I mean, we can, but I mean, if you guys have anything else to add to your proposals.
Well, and aren't the derbies?
Yeah, the derbies are online too. So
I don't think this is the proper place to pick each other apart or to do anything like that. I personally don't. I agree. Okay.
And yeah, and thank you, because that's the exact thing that we're trying to avoid. I mean, everybody, I think, made a genuine proposal, and we don't want them to feel the need to compete with each other and try to, get a leg up on each other.
And I wasn't saying that.
Oh, no,
I was just saying, hey, I mean, Larry's got his down, it'd be done by May 1st. I think Tucker's was 3 months
Yeah,
from time of purchase. So with that hang up of getting a half torn down and not finishing, I know that's not gonna happen between those two. I know it's gonna come down in a timely manner and it's gonna be done. So that I was
Yeah.
not trying to get them to.
no, I understand. I understand. I think if we were going to have them speak on their proposals, we might want to issue what I've seen done, and you don't have to do it this way, but what I've seen done is you give an invitation to everybody to make their proposal, but you ask the other parties to wait outside the room so they're not tempted to pick at each other. And then when one is done, you bring in the other one, and that might be a place to start. It's just a thought. There are probably other things you could do as well.
I like that thought. I like that process.
And we only have a week until our next meeting.
And
What?
A week.
You can go back here in a week, 7 days.
Well, yeah, it can be a week. Under my item, I was gonna bring up that because of the timeline for bidding on the downtown alley, I was gonna ask for a special meeting to set a public hearing on March 13th, which is the middle Monday between the meetings. So if you wanted to use that, right now, there would only be one item on that agenda. If you wanted to do a special meeting and invite people in for the 13th, if that worked, that might be a possibility. It gives them all a couple weeks to prepare.
Oh, good.
I'll make a motion to table it until the 13th, so you can have them come in individually,
Okay.
make the presentation.
Okay.
At least the 13th. I don't know if I'll be here for that.
Oh, golly.
But I mean, I can dial in too. It's fine too.
That's spring break week, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's gonna be the issue.
Oh, okay.
I
Well-
think about that. So I potentially would not be here either.
Then the next one would be the
20th.
20th, if that works.
Push it out.
Or like I said, I could call in too.
Yeah.
If it needs to be sooner.
Well,
Are you gonna be on vacation? You really wanna call in?
Always.
if there are, it might be hard. I don't know if anybody's gonna present something that would be visual.
Oh, sure.
I don't know. The Derbies did that last time.
Right.
And I don't know if they would want to come in. I guess we have to see. I really do still need to ask for the special meeting on the 13th to make the bidding calendar work for the alley project. But we can ask people, if the 20th works for you folks, we can let everybody know that the 20th would be the date.
Well, quite honestly, I feel like, I'm where Jason said also, like, I don't doubt that, what they're proposing is not gonna happen for the two here as well. So I don't know, I'm not sure what a presentation is really gonna do differently from what we're reading, I guess, is what I'm asking. I think it's more, we have to figure out what we want to see happen. And that's where we are not all in line. So maybe it's more something that we need to discuss. And we wouldn't necessarily need to call them in unless we had questions for them.
That's fine too.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Do you mean we're still looking at the 20th then to bring this back?
Or, yeah, I'm good with that, as long as we're not just coming back exactly the same way that we are right now, where we haven't discussed something or gotten new information.
How about if I just throw a motion for Lynch?
do a trial vote.
I don't know if there's a trial, but if
I'll
there's,
just make a motion for Lynch.
all right. I think that motion
He's dead.
dies. Is there a motion to table to the 20th then?
Motion.
Cummins with first? Because just to make, just to reiterate though, if you guys were to have different thoughts and discussions about this, it wouldn't include more than 2 people at a time, and you would not be asking how people would vote. But, so Cummins
Well,
still,
let me ask this, sorry, I know I just put a motion on.
you're fine. It may have died, so.
If what Mike brought up as far as negotiation, where does that fall in line with anything? I mean, how do we go about doing that if that's something that,
Make a motion probably to direct Brian to engage.
Yeah, but we'd want to get some sort of framework to do that within. For example, the proposal to have a house after X amount of time, or in the one, it would clear the lot, but I think it said there's no plan for its future use at this time. You know, if you wanted to be more definite about what the outcome would be, that would be something. You know, when I did the RFP, I did it not knowing what would come in. And so I was trying to think around some of the angles that might come up. And that's why I threw out the idea in the guidelines that they might be asked to make presentations, or they might be asked to answer questions, or there might be a negotiation happening. If something, you know, if there's a proposal that's just a straight demolition, and the person will try to market the lot, you know, maybe there isn't anything to negotiate there. But in the case of the one on the restoration, if you're looking at that and we're talking about recouping money and that kind of thing, then it seems like there would be a back and forth.
The city was given the house, and basically what we have invested into it, if we could negotiate trying to get that back out of it and leave the house as it stands. Have it, you know, 2.5 years, what they get, 2.5 years.
Okay, so hold on, I'm going to state that the motion to table has died. Is that fine? Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Oh, okay. So now instead, I was just making a clarification, but Mike did second that it gets tabled till the 20th.
McNeil,
No.
Cummins,
yes.
Bastian,
Yes.
Hembry,
No.
Helm,
Yes.
What is that, 3-2?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right, so it's been tabled until the 20th. On number 7, discussion and possible action that would authorize City Manager Brian Wagner to appoint John Walsh as the electric superintendent. Mr. Wagner?
Well, John and I have talked about some concepts that would go into a job offer, and I don't think anything that I would put in would be a surprise. I have shared some of the parameters with you. And so.
You as in the council.
The council,
Yep.
yes. And if the general framework is satisfactory, I'd like the ability to finish up the job offer and see if we can have John sign his acceptance to it.
I make a motion.
Hold on. Just to make sure there was no comments or anything.
I have some questions.
All right.
Will John be under contract?
No,
Can we get him a contract?
if you want one.
Can we take him to 47 an hour since the lineman you get? Comfortable with the added responsibilities?
If you take him to what?
Take him to 47 an hour.
If that's what the council wants to do.
Well, I know what linemen get on the market. I can do a Google search and act like Henson and all the rest of the headhunters. You know, then the second question is, did we ever take an effort or an attempt to advertise outside? It was
No.
never done, right?
No,
Okay.
I believe a while back, I asked the council if you wanted to promote from within or go outside, and the council gave me the direction to look within.
Does it look within or look within both? I understood it as look at both.
I think I came back a second time.
Okay.
So
Well,
then,
having dealt with municipal operations, one, I'll make a motion that, yeah, we approve John Walsh to be electric superintendent with the onset that he has a contract and his hourly rate at 47 an hour.
would, would having,
It was at 45.
Well,
right?
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
hold on, would having John under contract be different than the other
The other being what?
supervisors? The
Yeah.
other department heads?
Right, yeah. Melissa and I have contracts.
But all of the other heads of
Right.
departments.
Right.
They all have contracts?
No.
My point to the contract is, if you ever deal with the Department of Labor, you have a manager that gets PO'd at you or mad or has conflict of interest, that contract allows that employee to be protected when he's not protected by the Department of Labor. And as a small utility entity, he wouldn't be protected under the Department of Labor. And basically Riley would say, unless you got 50 grand or better, you're worthless to my law time. So in John's interest, if he has a contract, at least that gives him as an employee some stability depending on what potentially could come up. And I'd say the same thing to any employee for the municipal operations. If they're under contract, they get some stability for which in how they are managed and or supervised, to where personal conflicts are avoided.
I would suggest we nail down the job offer, and if contracts for various employees is a question, we might want to ask Lynch Dallas for an opinion on what they say about issuing contracts. I'm guessing that they'll advise against it, but we could see.
I like what we have drawn up simply, and I'm not saying John's not worth $47 an hour, but this way we have room to give a raise at such point in time, like you said, your 6-month probation period. Like I said, I'm not saying he's not worth that, but as an employer, I'm sure he's looked at that and looked at this and said he's happy. I would like to say that you're happy with 45 an hour.
So hold on.
Well-
This starts to get kind of.
All right.
But there is a motion for 47 an hour and to drop a contract.
I thought there was a motion prior to that too.
I motioned,
Oh, yeah.
I motioned originally just to go ahead and accept the offer. Right.
So, sorry, yep. So first there was a motion, sorry, Mike, I didn't.
To do number 7 as it's written.
As it's written, yes.
I'll second Mike.
And Poston with the second.
Cummins,
Yes.
Postian,
Yes.
Hembry,
No,
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil.
No. All right. So that brings us down to the reports. I don't have anything this week. Council reports? Oh, wait, hold on, I do. John, thank you for being patient with the council as we went through this. And I hope I hope you don't regret it. No, not regret it, but I hope you're satisfied and you stay for a long time. Yes. So thank you, John. The council reports, committees, city managers report.
No, I don't have anything.
Were we still going to do the special meeting for the?
For the 13th?
Yeah, for just the alley.
Yeah,
project.
right now, it's, the only item is to set a hearing for the alley project. It's not to say that if something comes up in a timely way, we wouldn't add it on. But right now, we do need it to be on the 13th.
Right. And then any department heads, there's a budget schedule.
Just a revised schedule with the new dates for when the public hearing will be for the budget and the final acceptance.
All right. Anybody else? Nope.
March 13th at 5:30 p.m. I assume, right?
Yes, I'll be dialing in.
13.
Yep. You dial in. All right, so that takes us down to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Poston with first and McNeil with second.
Postian,
Yes.
Hembry,
yes.
Helm,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Cummins.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.